I'm going to create a new app, and I'm going to call it Meal Grid. This is going to hold the backend data for the Meal Grid collection view app that we worked on before. If you're following along with me, then that screen you just saw where it had all the keys, those are going to be different for you. Those are the secret keys that uniquely identify your app, and you'd have to embed in your code to connect successfully to this backend. Okay, so we're going to add a class, where a class is essentially a table and a database, and we want to add a class for, it's a custom type for the restaurant object, where the restaurant object in our code, in Xcode, looks something like this, where a restaurant has a name, a phone, a website, a description, a type, all these things. In our app, we only show the name and the logo. We use the logo URL to download the image, so that's all I'm going to save into Parse for this demo. If we really were going to do this right, we'd have to enter all this for all of them. So I'm going to create this class, and then I'm going to create columns for those things that I care about. In this case, I care about the name of the restaurant, which is of data type string. Notice it created a column here, name, type string. And I'd also like to create a column of type string that holds the logo URL. So again, just for demo purposes, that's the only two things I'm going to put in here, because that's all we absolutely need to make the app run. Really though, I would want to store everything that was in my restaurant object. Now I'm just going to go ahead and create a few of these objects so that we can test our app and make our app connect to this online database and download these and show them. So put in our favorites, Taco Bell. Notice, start with the name. You'll automatically get a unique object ID. You'll get a created at date, an updated date. There's this ACL, stands for Access Control List, and you can set this to different things. Right now, it's set to public read and write. We probably would just want this to be public read. You can double click on it and uncheck write. But for this data, I only need my users to be able to read the database. I don't expect them to write to it, is what I'm expecting. And then the logo URL we can get from our data set. So I'm going to copy and paste this entire URL that we use to instantiate the objects. Oops. Double click that and put that in. We create another couple of rows here. So we'll have a few restaurants in here. Let's get McDonald's. And Dairy Queen. So we got the three objects in there, three rows in this database. This will be good enough for our demo purposes. So what we'd like to do is change our app so that it connects to Parse, downloads these objects, and shows them instead of our data set. Who needs more time? Okay. Okay, so coming over here, here we go. Going back to like this home screen, the quick start guide I found to be very helpful to help me get started quickly. Very aptly named. So I'm going to click the quick start guide, and it's going to say, okay, well, what do you want to do with this? I want to use data on mobile, on iOS, in Swift. And for me, this is an existing project. I think if you click new project, will it just let you download a new one? It'd be nice. It'd be so much easier than what we're about to do.
The docs actually edit themselves based on your project, and that's
sad. Sadly, I'm not going to do this. So I'm going to do it the hard way because it'll help us learn. And we do actually have an existing project. So this is what we have to do. It's still a really nice tutorial. All right, we need to download the Parse SDK. Okay, so click on this button to download the Parse SDK. Also going to open up the Meal Grid app in Xcode. Who needs more time to download? Okay. So what I need to do is I need to drag in, well, after you unzip it, drag in the bolts framework and the parse framework from the downloaded Parse SDK and drag them into your Xcode project like so. And do say copy items if needed. So this will copy those framework libraries into our Xcode project. Good so far? Continuing on down, there are other dependencies that we have to have, other libraries, and they show us in order to do that, you go to the Build Phases tab of the settings and add a couple more libraries under the link binary with libraries section. It's actually more than a couple, it's a lot, which I don't know if they're all absolutely necessary. I'm sure we're not using them, but for what we're going to do today in Parse, but we'll do it the right way. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on Build Phases, and then link binary with libraries. And I'm going to add all the libraries that are shown over here. Audio toolbox. So I'm going to click plus. I'm going to say audio. Choose that. So all these are other frameworks that are built into iOS but aren't included by default. CF Network, Core Graphics, Core Location, Ports, Security, StoreKit, System Configuration, libz, lib SQLite 3. I think that's it. So I've added all those frameworks into my project. Note that it put all up here. I would like to say new group from selection and say frameworks and just hide them all there. I'll put the bolt and parse in there as well, just so I don't have to look at them so much. There are other installation options like using CocoaPods, which is probably worth it to save all that. We may talk about CocoaPods later. It's an automated build system and dependency manager. It's really nice. Y'all ready to go on? So when you have that, what you see here next is an example of what code needs to go in your application, your app delegate. So you've got to import parse and bolts, and then in the application did finish launching with options method, you can optionally enable the local data store, which is a way to cache the parse data locally. I'm going to skip over that because it's optional. You can also optionally track statistics about when the app's open, when people launch your app, using this PF Analytics, track app opened with launch options here. I think I'm going to ignore that for now too. What's essential, what's absolutely essential is that you set this parse key, and this is specific to your code in Parse. So don't copy what I have, copy what you have. You can see up here if you select a different app on Parse, it'll actually change what the app ID is. So I'm going to copy this line. I'm going to go to my app delegate, and application did finish launching with options. And right here, I'm going to paste. I'm going to get an error because it's going to say, I don't know what parse is. And I need to import parse and import bolts. And let me build that again. Build succeeded. So now I'm still not really doing anything with parse in the sense that I'm saving data there or retrieving data. But my app is set up. So this is a first level you have to do. I copied. Oh, I had to import parse and import bolts so that it could connect. I think actually I changed my mind. I will put this in. Maybe this will work. And we can see that the app is launching. So this would do some background work so that whenever the app launches, at some point, it may actually be cached or something. It'll send some information to Parse so it can track how people are using your app. Okay, so that's that. They also give you a little thing to test it. So anywhere in your code, like in a view did load on some view that actually loads, you could create this test object and then execute the save in background with block method. And so running this little snippet will save an object to Parse. It'll be like a new table with a column called foo who has a value of bar. It's kind of like what Seth was saying, how you don't have to create the tables ahead of time. You could just save up to it. Like in this meal grid scenario, though, I actually have a data set that I want everybody to download. So I feel like it's appropriate to do the way we did it. Okay, so that's that. Now let's actually improve our code. So I'm going to go into the data set object, and instead of using this dummy data set, I'm actually going to write a function that downloads all the data from Parse to show. Excuse me. All right, so let me just go ahead and go on record of saying I can't guarantee, I don't know if this is the absolute best way of doing this, but this seemed good to me as I prepared for this class, right before this class. So if you see areas for improvement, let me know, because I'd really like to do this better. I did use a closure, though, so I sort of feel like that gives me, like, it's not the worst possible way of doing it. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create, for this whole data set class, I really want to be able to access it statically, that is as a class variable, like I did up here, static, so I don't have to instantiate the data set class, it's just always there. So the stuff I'm going to make is also static. So I want to make a static variable called the parse dataset. This is the dataset from Parse, is what I mean by that. And it is an array of restaurants. And I'll go ahead and instantiate it there, so it'll be an empty array, but it will have memory. Then I'm going to write a function that loads the Parse dataset asynchronously into that array. So this also has to be static, and it's a function. I'm going to call it load parse data set. And what I'd like to do here is create a query that gets all of the objects out of the restaurant table, and then loads them into an array of restaurants. By default, they'll be like PF objects, which is the parse class that encapsulates objects that you get out of Parse, but I'd like to extract the components of a restaurant object and make one, instantiate. Well, make as many restaurant objects as there are rows in this data set. So I'm going to create this query. I'm going to say let query equal pf query. I'm immediately not getting autocomplete, and that says to me I need to import parse. And now I'll go back to this. And on this query, I'm going to pass in a class name. The class name is restaurant, right? Because that's the class, the table name of the things I want to get back. This might need to be var, and so I'm not going to change it. For this example, it doesn't need to be, but there may be scenarios that it might not need to be constant. Anyway, we can let it be let. The function I want to use is the find objects in background with block right here. And what I'm going to pass in is an array of objects, that is an array of pf objects, that's the parse objects, and an error. Hang on, I need a name for this. So the query is going to execute asynchronously, and when it returns, either the error object is going to be set, or there's going to be an array of objects of type pf object, which is optional. So first of all, if I only want to do this if the error equals nil. Otherwise, print, do your error handling here, error, and I can print out the error. What am I doing wrong? Oh, this one should be on the outside. Okay. Hopefully, we're going to be in this top part, which means there wasn't an error. And I'm going to iterate over this array. I'm going to say if let objects equals objects as pf object array. I need that. So if let that, then I'm going to say for object in objects. And for now, I'm going to print the ID of all of those objects as a first pass. Every parse object has an object ID and a created at and an updated at, because it has those columns. We know that our objects have some other special values, the custom values, the things that restaurants have, name and logo URL. but the compiler can't know that. So let's just test and see if this works first, except we've skipped a really, really important part. And that is, how do we connect this to where we need it? Because this is asynchronous, we won't have the results at the same time, the same moment when we call this function. It'll be some unpredictable period of time in the future. So my idea was, what if we pass in a function to load parse dataset that's run after we've correctly and completely downloaded all the objects? What would that look like? In my mind, we can pass in a function that's something like the update callback. This feels a little JavaScripty, which makes me feel like I'm doing it wrong. And this function, right? It's a closure that returns void. So once I have downloaded all those, here, I'm going to run the callback function, like so. Does this bother you, Avery? Now, I don't know what's in that function, but whoever called load parse dataset, he knows what's supposed to happen when the data comes back. We know this guy, right? It's the collection view controller right here. Yeah? So I'm thinking, let's do this on viewDidLoad. So on viewDidLoad, we'll say dataset dot load parse dataset, and then do a function here. What's the function we want to do? Well, we don't want to do this anymore. Instead, I want to I want to var restaurants equals a restaurant array. I really think there's a way to improve this. Let me come back to the data set. There's one more thing I forgot. My idea is, when this is done, then set the parse data set equal to the objects. This is what I'd like to do. Okay? I can't do that because the parse data set is restaurants, and objects are PF objects. So I'm going to have to convert all those the individual objects to restaurants and create an array. So I can't do this yet, but I'll come back to it. But if this line had run, then in the collection view controller, I should be able to say restaurants equals dataset dot parse dataset. Oh, there's a closure, so I have to have a reference to self. And the other thing I need to do is I need to say that the self.collectionView I think there's a reload data, isn't it? Capital the V. So when this comes back, okay, got to unwrap that. That should probably be an if let, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have a collection view in a collection view controller. But something bad could have happened. I think we have to do this so that it updates. But now the rest of the code doesn't have to be changed because it's all linked back up to this restaurants array. But we can't put the parse data set, a copy of the parse data set, into this until we know that there's actually something there. Right? And that won't be done until after our processing is done. So this is not going to work yet, but we can see that the data will be downloaded. So let's see, we'll get our print lines from here, where it prints the object IDs. So recall that the object IDs should be these weird strings. So you think this is going to work? Let's see. It's okay, I got a breakpoint. Stop doing that. Oh, thank you. Okay, we don't expect to see anything, but what we do see, which is quite nice, is these optionals that look like weird strings of text, which R3D, R3D. All right, so what we need to do here in dataset now is extract the fields from those objects and create a restaurant object. This is going to be ugly, but it's a little ugly because I don't have most of the required fields for a restaurant. I just have the two. So I'm going to let name equal to what? I'm going to extract the name from the parse object. And parse works on is a very key value kind of system, so it's all about the keys. So I can say object at name, and you better spell it right. All your strings better be exactly perfect or it's not going to work. And I'm getting an error there because I don't use name, but I will. And I'm going to let the logo URL equal object at logo URL. Is that what I called it? Make sure, logo URL, yes. Then I'm going to create a restaurant, let R equal restaurant, with a name of name, with a phone of quote quote, with a website of quote quote, description of quote quote, a type of quote quote, star rating of 4, a logo URL of logo URL, false, false, just got to put some data in so I can create this, cost tier dot cheap, street address, quote quote, lat, 5, long, 7, done. This is definitely a restaurant you want to go to. And I messed up somewhere. Oh, any object is not convertible to string. On each of these, they come out as any object, so I need to as string them. And then the value R was never used. So another thing that I need to do is say that that's what I'm going to do. I want to append them to the data set, but I need to make sure that the data set was cleared out before I add them back on, or I might add duplicates. So thinking about when I need to do that, I guess it would be in here. I need to say that. Oh, yes, thank you. Right here. So parse data set dot, is there a clear? Dot remove all. Boom. So I'm going to remove everything that was in the data set, and then as I bring them in the for loop, I need to say parse data set dot append R. And then now I should be able to say this, only it's not, oh wait, no. I don't have to do this because I can see how it might be cleaner to create a temporary local array, append them all to that, and then at the end, set it. In case you had a weird timing scenario where somebody referenced this when it was halfway set. You wouldn't want that. I think that's possible, right? Maybe. Okay. We'll go with this for now. I think this will make it work, won't it? As long as those name and logo URL are spelled correctly and they actually come out, boom! That's what I'm talking about.
Is the speed coming from Parse thing?
Parse is fast. Has anybody had any performance issues with Parse? Ever feel like they're slowing you down? They're not loading. And this version is not, I mean, this isn't loading the images from Parse. They're being downloaded from Wikipedia based on the URLs, and I'm caching them, so it only downloads them once. And it's only issuing one query to Parse and getting all of the, the whole set back, the set of 3, tiny objects.
The most confusing part for me is just knowing when the query finishes.
This query?
Yeah, like if you want to run something directly after that query is done.
Like this, that. So the way I got around that was passing in a function that I want to run. Because I don't know what, I don't have any references to the.
So any code that you want to run after, you run inside the query.
That's my thought. There's probably other patterns for doing it, but I don't want this query to know anything about what's going on those other view controllers. So let's just confirm that it works. Let's create a new one. We got to do it, right? The chow wagon. And let me not give it a logo URL because it should be able to handle that. That doesn't, though.
Yeah, you can do that as an option because you're passing in
So what would be the way to fix that?
I did. The way I've set up mine before is I create the object at the beginning and do if let's name and if let logo URL and set them all with that. But you've got a huge initializer there.
I could put this in here. Oh, this hurts. This hurts.
Another one outside of it.
Oh, I don't need.
Can you access that stuff? Because if you can set it up initially as R with an empty string and then do logo or R dot logo URL and set it as that if that's easier than anything.
You're saying this if what?
Well, I'm saying create the R outside of your if let because right now it's giving you an error because it doesn't know if R is ever being created, I think. Because you've got it in an if block.
Oh, here. That's another problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you say if let as object logo URL and then if let as string? Why not just put them both together? Unless you want 2 separate statements or something.
I was thinking I needed it because it could fail to not find this thing, or it could.
I mean, for error checking, you might need it, but otherwise it should be in the same
Yeah.
line.
It's yeah, I think I need to change more than I want to change, but maybe my restaurant object should be different so that instead of having to know everything to begin with, you could like kind of incrementally set the fields.
Let's make a pivot method real quick that makes everything blank.
I mean, I guess I can.
Are they all let values? Because you should be able to access them, you know? If you just do r dot logo URL equals. Inside of it.
But I'm having issues with this if let.
As question mark, not as.
Nice, thank you guys. So now I create the restaurant object R with a nil logo URL, and then if I'm able to get it, I set it. So this is probably dangerous as well. So I should probably put both of those in there.
You need the r inside of it. As question mark.
Okay, that's what we expect. This was our ugly default image, only what? Got one of those things where it reused the cell, and I didn't reset the image to null after when I created a new one. Okay, well, let's see if we can fix that. So that would be in here. Or is it an asynchronous thing? I think I need down here to say if this isn't the case, then I should set the cell dot logo image view dot image equal to nil, because it doesn't ever, it's reusing the cell, but then it comes back to this and it says, oh, well, you don't have a logo URL, so I'm not going to do anything. It doesn't reset it to the baseline. This might make it disappear altogether, though. Yeah. So, oops. Yeah. It doesn't show even that default thing, which is probably what I should have to make it set. That's an improvement. Okay, so what we saw today over just like under an hour, I think it's pretty impressive, is that we have a cloud-based app that the data stored in the cloud. We're able to retrieve it, convert it to the objects that we know how to use really well, and we are displaying it. And we didn't have to change that much of our view controller code or our model code, right? It was just, we didn't have to change our view. We didn't have to change our view controller. The model that we changed was, we reused the restaurant object, but we added this new load method to retrieve it. So we did change our model, but we were still able to reuse a lot of the model classes.